Just a bit the equipments. Yeah. Carry on. Okay. Right. Okay. So a very good evening, everyone. Welcome back to our Fireside chat. This is our fourth session. So today we're going to talk about mental wellness through the outdoors. And today in the studios, we have with us two guests, not just one. We have two guests. Again, we have Kenneth. He is from the Pomegranates, professional counselor. And we also have my friend here, Delane, okay, founder of Happy Youth. Okay, so I'm going to leave the introduction to them. Okay, I think they can introduce themselves better. So I'll hand Kenneth.
Right. Hello, everyone. I'll just do a very short introduction. Very short. Yeah, so I'm a professional counselor, and I run this practice by myself. So it's a private practice, and I do professional counselling. Right, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then we're neighbors.
Professional counselling, right? Yeah, I mean we are
office neighbors.
Yeah, office neighbors. Right, and I'm into mindfulness practices as well. Yeah. Okay.
Right, thank you. Okay, Delane.
Hi, my name is Delane. I run a charity organization called Character and Leadership Academy. So my day job, I manage an architecture firm. So, but I'm not. But the interesting part about my job is I'm not an architect. I'm not a designer. But I happen to be in the architecture firm. So I spend 70-80% of my time in the charity work. So part of the charity work focus on suicide prevention, and we have this program called Happy Youth. And as you rightfully said, yeah, I created Happy Youth together with a team of volunteers.
What does Happy Youth do?
So if you look at the word Happy Youth, it covers two words. One is happy and one is youth. So the whole idea about Happy Youth is to really build a culture and to help young people to define what it means to be happy. And when they are happy, when their mind is happy, then they will be more sound to do things. They will be able to make decisions better.
Okay, so that's Delane and Kenneth, right? So we have the privilege of inviting two very experienced in their own field, okay, to share a lot of insight with us. So I'm gonna begin by asking Kenneth, as a professional counselor, somebody who can read minds.
No, I can't.
That's okay.
Right.
Okay, so who understands mental health a bit more and a bit deeper as well. Okay, to share with us, maybe help us understand what does mental health means for us, for people who, like a common you and me. Okay, and what is considered a healthy or unhealthy mental state? So is there, between the healthy and the unhealthy, is there somewhere in between that we can fall into?
Right. Okay, so basically mental health it's just like physical health, physiological health. So apparently if you are feeling good, you're feeling okay physiologically, you are healthy in that sense.
Right.
So if I've got no cancer, I'm healthy.
Right.
If I've got no fever, I'm healthy in that sense. But I guess when it comes to mental health, it becomes a bit different. You don't quite have fever in that sense. And unless you have psychosomatic symptoms, right? So basically, if you feel well mentally, that means you're basically quite happy, or you may not be really happy. You can be joyful, or you can be just experiencing some baseline emotions, right? So these baseline emotions doesn't mean that, or rather, we have all these baseline emotions. We are neither too happy, we are neither too sad as well, but we are just, in a sense, we are quite balanced in that sense.
Is that
right?
Normal?
Yeah, that's normal. Right, so during normal days, we are usually experiencing baseline. So if I'm at work, if I've got no stress, there's no stimulus to make me happy, that's baseline. Right, there's no stimulus to make me sad, that's basically quite baseline. Right, but if something triggers me, I can go down below the baseline. If something triggers me to be happy, I can go up the baseline. Right, so basically we are at quite a baseline kind of emotions, and I guess that's mentally healthy. Right, yeah. So. I guess now the word mental health, mental wellness, right, is the key phrase as well.
Right.
Yeah. So to be well mentally is really to know how to cope with situations, how to cope with your emotions, having some different relationships with your emotions, right? Rather than to see your emotions as something bad, but can we change our emotions or rather trying to relate with our emotions differently. I guess these are skills that we need to learn in mental wellness, right? So with regard to the question that you asked, if there are like in between states, I guess that isn't so much of an in between state. I guess the in between state would refer to that baseline. So it's either you are mentally well or you are mentally not well. So when you're mentally well, I guess we all know. We feel happy, we feel joyful and whatnot. But we are not mentally so well, then I guess there's quite a spectrum. And people feel that, when they are not so well, but they think that they are still okay, manageable, then I think that's fine. If you're functional, that's fine. But that's also quite a good time to seek help in that sense.
Okay. Yeah. So you talk about seeking help. So in this case, I think a lot of people don't really like say that, hey, I need help. Probably if I'm running a fever, right, I would say I'm going to see a doctor, I'm going to get an MC. And that one is very normal and very acceptable for like normal, common people like us. But to what extent do you say that, hey, I will need to seek help? Is it that I'm like I cannot go to work, I don't want to do anything suicidal, then I should seek help? Or is there like a nearer point that we can, hey, and somebody talk to me?
Right.
Yeah. And seeking counselling, I never crossed my mind, okay, but so if you can like share with us what goes on in a counselling session.
Okay. Right. So I'll handle the first
question, yes.
Right. And what was the first question again?
Is to what extent or to what point, because what symptom, it's not like having a fever, I need to see a counselor.
Right. Okay, so basically I think prevention is really much better than cure. Right. And I guess we really do not want to wait till there's a really big problem before we seek help. I guess counseling is also about learning skills to cope. So if you feel that you are not feeling too good, you are feeling stressed, right, at work, and you somehow do not have any idea to reduce that stress, for example, or you are in a relationship and things are not going too well, and you do not know how to make a relationship better. I think these are examples where it's not really serious, but you need skills to help to handle these situations. Yeah, then I guess that's actually the best time to seek help, because it's not serious. At the same time, it is still at that phase where you can learn a lot of skills to repair a lot of things or to make things better. Rather than you face a problem, then you start to seek help. That becomes a little bit tricky actually.
So when we seek help, I think the first few level is to seek counselling. Is that correct?
Right.
So what happens during a counselling? I don't know. Is it like in a room, very intimidating, scary?
No. Right. So basically, counseling is very, very informal. There's no formality. You can come in t-shirts and shorts if you want to. Right. Yeah. So it's really very informal. It's very casual. And your counselors will actually talk to you in a very informal tone as well. Right. Just to try to get to understand what's going on and to impart the necessary kind of skills. All right, or to guide them into being aware of their own internal processes, right, or to guide them in terms of their self-awareness, their belief systems, and whatnot. Yeah. So, and in a counseling session, right, basically you do not read minds. The counselors do not read people's minds. Yeah. So the counselors would tend to ask many questions, to guide you through by asking you many questions, right? But that's not an interview session. If you are not ready to share with us some more those very intimate narratives, you can choose not to first.
Right.
Yeah. So when you're more ready, then you can actually share with the counselors. Right. So we ask quite a few questions, right, to understand the situation, and based on those narratives that our clients give us, then we start to formulate certain hypotheses. Right, certain ideas about what's going on, and then we just continue the chat.
Right.
Yeah, and it's not scary at all. So all my clients, first-time clients, right, they will come in, they may feel scared, But at the end of the session, when I asked them what happened, they said that it's actually really a very pleasant experience.
Okay, so I'm gonna also check in with Delane. I understand that Happy Youth do also receive like some kind of request for help from youth, especially, or just so do you all provide some kind of counselling, or do you all do referrals?
I mean, it depends on the request. I think 70% of the request comes from parents and schools that there's particular individual that will need help. Not more, I don't think not more than 30% of the youth will want to come to you for help. But we deal with cases where we help the child to understand what are the emotional roller coaster that they're going through. Like what Kenneth had mentioned, we have this activity called the Lifeline, where we get them to chart milestones in their life, the ups and the downs. So I always share with all our young people that life is never a straight line. Because if life is a straight line, then we are in trouble.
Okay.
So if you look at your lifeline, it's really days that you're happy, days that you are sad. And let me assure whoever that is feeling down that we all have our own downtime. Life is never easy, and it will never be easy. And that's the reason why I think it's important. In the Happy Youth program, it's really to help young people to understand what it means to be resilient. And we always say that while we talk about mental wellness, we also want to talk about mental resilience. And mental resilience is really about when you have no choice, and that's the only choice, and you live by the choice and you overcome the choice, then that's where you build your resilience.
Right. Yeah. So as I was hearing your sharing, I also remember a conversation we had earlier. We're talking about people who come forward to seek help. There is the willing and the mandatory, right? So which is what Delane was also talking about. People who usually are not so volunteering to come forward. Right. Okay.
Usually the first session is the toughest because that's where you need to build the relationship.
Do they come in willingly or?
If for directed counselling, not. But you probably need to really get them to trust that whole relationship. It's really about building the level of candidness and providing them a safe space. But for those of them who are willing, or those of them who volunteer themselves, then chances is we are quite blessed that this person chances is probably concerned about
himself
his or her own life. We are always afraid those of them who don't want to seek help at all. Then we really have to build that trust and build that ecosystem where they feel that it is safe, it is okay to share about the emotion. Right. But unfortunately, a lot of our younger generation choose to verbalize their emotion through social media. And when it's through social media, then let me give one example. Just 2 months ago, when somebody wrote on Facebook that everyone is laughing at me, I'm fat. I don't see a reason why I should leave. Just that status alone garnered about 400 over likes and about 60 over comments. And some of the comments were very nasty. And the comments were, fat people should not live in this world. So when you read it and if you are really the person, then the public feels that you shouldn't live. So they get advice or information from the social media, which is dangerous. And that's where in part of Happy Youth is to really to help our young people who are using social media, who are not suicidal, but they are the people who like to comment. I hate to say this, there are a lot of keyboard warriors, but if you are a positive keyboard warrior, then you are able to encourage the person. But if you are a keyboard warrior and you are affirming what she says, then chances is you may affirm her decision to end your life.
Okay, right. I think at this point, I come to two conclusions. One, it is very safe, very comfortable to acknowledge that, hey, I need help, and to take that first step to come forward to see a counselor. Okay, and then I think the The other one is, I think, just slipped my mind. Think about the social media part. I think all of us, we can also be the positive keyboard warrior that when we see such a post, right, okay, we probably can do something positive rather than commenting negatively. Yeah, so
you can be a bystander.
Ah.
But if you can choose to, if you can be an upstander and doing what is right on social media, then I will call you a keyboard warrior. Because I think a lot of times we discount the value of keyboard warrior. Those of them who really in the behind the keyboard writing things that are nasty, I call it keyboard cowards. But there's a difference.
Right.
There's really a fine line between keyboard cowards and keyboard warriors. So if you really want to be a warrior, then save somebody's life.
Okay, so with that, I'm gonna ask Kenneth. In your practice, right, what are some of the common issues or the common stressor that you say is more prevalent in Singapore? Or is there a particular something that's more special in Singapore?
Right, I think anxiety is one of the main issues in Singapore. I think anxiety rate is really very high in Singapore, partly because of the pace of life and the work and everything, right? Workload, schoolwork, the chase for perfection rather than excellence. I think people are having this very wrong or rather inappropriate mindset that they are always constantly chasing for perfection, but they are not sure what they are doing in that sense. Right? So we always say that we try to strive for excellence rather to chase for perfection. So as long as they are trying to chase after perfection, right, they get really stressed because everything needs to be done properly. Everything needs to be seen as perfect. I need to be flawless. I cannot make mistakes and whatnot. Right. So I guess all these things make a person very, very anxious, constantly on guard. So basically this is the main issue in Singapore, I guess, in terms of the general public, not the specific ones. So that's one common stress, I would say. Right. Of course, I do work with quite a lot of youth as well. So one of the issues that they face would be school workload. School. Right. And the other one would be what we mentioned just now about social media, about their self-image, in fact. Right. So self-image on social media is so important to them. Right. The use of social media, so they do get cyberbullying. Right. They do have more serious ones like catfishing. Catfishing. Any idea? So basically, catfishing. Right. So basically, catfishing is a form of cyberbullying where somebody fake a certain account and then tricks the victim into exposing their private parts. Right. Yeah. So that's catfishing that we need to be very careful of. Right. And that's happening in Singapore as well. Of course, school workload, cyberbullying, and of course the other one, which is actually quite difficult to handle, would be parents' expectations of their own children. Right. So I guess that expectations sometimes get really huge, and teenagers don't quite know how to draw that line between whether my mom loves me for who I am or whether my mom wants me to do really well and aim for perfection. Right. So I guess that is something where we need to reflect on and to mull over it. Right. This expectation, is it particular in any area of life? Usually academic. Usually academic, or just as a teenager himself. So some parents will say that, I don't expect my teenager to, go out so often. Right. But what is going out so often? I think we need to know what that is and how do we communicate with them. I think that's important. Right. Right. Rather than saying no, you cannot go out. But let's go into some details, something deeper, and understand why is there a need to go out. Understand their developmental issues. I think that's important. Right. So you can't quite just see teenagers as teenager. We need to also understand that they are going through a certain period of development where they would face unique issues at this period of time. Right. And I guess as parents, teachers, or any adults, I guess we are here to guide them rather than to command them, because command them is not going to work. So recently I've just got another parent who told me that another parent didn't allow a child to install IG, Instagram, on her handphone.
Right.
Right. But the problem with that is that even if you disallow that to happen, the child would secretly do it. So what? And the child who has secretly done that will actually live in fear every day. Like, I don't dare to let my parents see in my handphone, right? Fearing that she might get to know that she installed IG, right? What if the mom got to know that her daughter installed the IG? Then how would she respond to it, right? And that in itself, that action itself would have actually cut away that communication between the child and the daughter. And the mother and the daughter, right? Yeah, because the child would think that installing IG is so common, and yet my mom is making such a big fuss about it. That means if I were to face any bigger issue, I don't dare to talk to my mom because my mom will be judging me a lot. Right. So I guess we need to understand certain parenting styles that we adopt. Right. What works in the past may not work now. And so we need to.
So communication, I would say, is the key. Dialogues. Yeah. You also mentioned that academic is also one of the few areas of expectation. Yeah. And just now earlier we were talking about the release of exam. And now I think this is the period, also very timely, that this is the period where schools are releasing results. Yeah.
And PSLE results are coming.
PSLE result is coming, yes. Yeah. And is there a special, situation where you see more cases of counselling? Or I don't know if you have access to special data that talks about, this period and mental health issues during this period.
I think with COVID-19, the number of cases and requests has went up. At least in our organization, about 4-fold during the CB period. Wow. I like what Kenneth mentioned. I think parents do play a very important role in the mental health of the child. My advice to parents who are listening to this podcast is don't build your own esteem based on the child's performance. Sometimes parents unknowingly not just set expectation. Sometimes they say that I never set expectation for my child. So I have one case of a parent whom the son attempted suicide. Right. So thankfully did not succeed. Came to me for some chit-chat session, and then she revealed that I have never expect my kids to score A's. Why did he try to end his life? I just hope that he just passed the exam. Now, you look at this statement, passing the exam is an expectation. And because the child cannot pass the exam, and therefore the child feels really stressful that I scored 47 out of 100. Right? So parents out there, we need to be aware about what we say. We have parents that like to do comparison. While the child is in the room, the mother and the husband, they were talking and say, our neighbor child scored 7 A's, such a good child. But unknowingly, your own kid is actually listening to what is the conversation and what is your expectation of him or her. And end up they actually self-impose certain expectations on themselves. So parents need to be mindful of the environment around them. And one thing that I hate the most when I'm young is when you go for Chinese New Year visit. Okay. When everyone starts to compare about their results, which school they are from. Times have really changed. I think I always believe that all schools are good schools. I have to say that because politically it's right, because all schools are good schools. Yes. And I think we need to play according to the strength of the child. Than to force feed the strength of the child when the child don't really have their interest and their strength. So parents need to understand that you need to spend more time with the child so that they understand. When you see that your child's behavior has changed, then it's time to reflect on what has happened in the last few months. I like what Kenneth had mentioned about parents stopping their child going out with their friends. But I think the circuit breaker period has shown to us that human beings, like all of us here, are social creatures. We need to meet with people. Likewise for the child, if the child don't meet with people, don't mingle with people, then we have another set of problems. Then when they grow up, there will be an EQ issue. So when they have an EQ issue, eventually when people start to stay away from people with EQ issues, it's a matter of time they will fall into other state of mental issues.
I guess what's important to acknowledge is that I think parents have good intentions, right? It's just that we need to be a bit more careful with our good intentions for our children. But I don't think any parents would want their child to not do well in life.
Right.
You know? Yeah. So I guess on that, being a parent is difficult, right? But let's just be a bit more mindful, a bit more aware, right? So that we can learn skills, parenting skills, right, to parent our children. So I think that's important.
So, okay, thank you. But we have seen in the news very recently, that young people are taking their own life. Could this issue be a lead up to something to them taking that plunge, like the parent issue, or is it something else? The exam probably.
I think for young people between 10 to 29, right? Between 10 and 29, I think this group of young people, they are like the main focus of the suicide prevention, isn't it?
Is it in the first place? Is it very serious, or is it like every day there's suicide everywhere in the world? Is it particularly serious in Singapore?
I guess one death by suicide is one too many.
Right.
I think if you say that if one death is from suicide is not serious, then I guess it's one life taken away.
The numbers are right now in the range of 400.
400?
Between 390 to 400.
A year?
Which means to say that you are looking at one suicide or 1.2 suicide in a day.
Yeah, that's right.
And of course, unfortunately, the man is 2/3 and the woman is 1/3. One of the common questions is why men is higher than the woman. So I always say that for women, they have a very strong coping mechanism, and their strong coping mechanism is called crying. Whereas you hardly see guys cry when they're born. When there's born for the women, there are two things that they will do. They will talk to the friends about it because there is a support system, and they will cry out. Whereas for the guys, we tend to keep all the things to ourselves. So if you look at the recent SOS statistics, if the last 4 or 5 years, or at least the last 10 years, if the number will move between 390 to 410, that range, and it is always consistently in this range, that means that I think we need to do more to really reduce the rate of suicide. If you look at per household capita in Singapore versus other countries, yes, we are considered in the higher range, but we also have countries like Japan and Korea that their suicide rate per household capita is also very high. Yeah. So.
What's your take on the man and the woman thing? The crying.
Okay. So I guess boys these days they do cry, but they cry in silence. So it's in silence, right? So I've got this student who came to me and said that I do not know why I cry every night, but for no reason. But he comes to school, he's alright, but he doesn't like life, he doesn't like school, but he'll still come, because parents want him to come and whatnot. And he cries every night, and he says that he doesn't know the reason. So I guess these are telltale signs, right, to suggest that something is not too right in his life, and he needs our attention. The mental health is not too good in that sense, right? And he finds that life has no purpose. So I guess these are all telltale signs, right? So I think boys do cry, but sometimes they do cry in silence, and they don't quite tell people.
I think it's not normal for boys to be weak
And if you look at that, between the ages of 10 and 29, or rather 10 to 19, right? Boys actually are the main bulk of those who have attempted suicide.
Right.
Right. Yeah. So boys are the ones. So if you base on statistics again, 94 people committed suicide, full suicide last year, and 2017 as well. Right. And then the main bulk of them, they are like, I think 71, right, from 20 to 29. So 10 to 19, most boys are the ones who committed suicide. So I guess boys are not so forthcoming in telling people that they are feeling depressed or they are feeling anxious. Right. Yeah.
I think it's also their perspective that if I were to cry publicly, means that I'm weak. So there is a stigma of crying equals to weak.
Yeah, that's true. And this boy did mention something like, I do not want to be seen weak by his friends. Right. So he didn't tell his friends. Probably only one other close friend who cries as much as well. Yeah. So these two friends are together. In fact.
Probably at this point, I think we can assure everyone, I think it is okay to feel down, and then it is okay that we acknowledge that we have such.
And it's okay to cry.
Yeah, it's okay to cry.
If we need to cry, we'll cry it out.
Yeah. It's order to share.
So we have a question from Facebook, I think. Is questions to Kenneth.
Yeah.
If someone told you that they are going to end their life now and standing at the edge of the window, what are the interventions you will do to help him or her?
Right.
I'm not asking, because this question, I'm coming to the question at this point because we know, Delane, you actually have such an experience.
Okay.
You have shared with me a video. I think if it's okay, we will want to share.
Sure.
That will give a very good introduction. All right. So this very interesting video is about Delane, and then we'll come back to Kenneth to answer this question. Right. Can we have the video? So if you have any questions, you can type it out on the comment if you're on Facebook. And if you are on Zoom, we will have a time after this to open up the questions for you. Okay? So we're going to share screen, I believe.
In the past, I would always think that depression and the thoughts of suicide are people who are weak. Then I realized that I thought that I was strong. So I thought that I could overcome my negative thoughts in my mind. Then I realized that when everything hits you at one time, it can be very overwhelming. And your minds are really in a mess. You thought that you are strong, and you realize that when you're weak, you realize that you're even more disappointed to yourself. That how come you couldn't solve your own problem? And everything just fall apart. Because when things fall apart, I usually have one or two things fall apart in that year. But this is like multiple combo. And it is not, and it's a long-term combo. The thought of attempting suicide was very subtle. So as I was making that decision to affirm myself that it is the right choice, this guy dropped me a text and asked me, "How are you?" This guy really saved my life. I think the message that he sent is something that I always share with young people. That quote is something that I always remember. God will not remove your pain, but He will give you enough strength to go through the pain. And I think whatever crisis or whatever situation that you are in that is painful or that is sad, I'm quite sure that you will walk through it if you were to continue to be resilient. And I always believe that God will give you that strength. This whole episode could be an interesting lesson for me to reflect And as I think back, flashback about me sitting down on the ledge, I said that I think it is a very clear message from somewhere to tell me that I have let you go through depression. And now I think it's a time for you to reach out to these people who are depressed, where we want young people to be equipped with a coping mechanism. Then this is where they are able to help their friends and help their loved ones and even to help themselves to go through this whole painful experience of being depressed. And hopefully for those of them who are equipped with the coping mechanism, they don't just be gatekeepers of their own life, but they also be gatekeepers of the life of the people around them. Everyone who's depressed will want to be heard. May not be openly, but sometimes they will drop tail signs of being sad, being down, being depressed, keywords that they say that they are useless, keywords that they say that life is meaningless. So if you are faced with somebody that responds that way, I think it's important for us to be gatekeeper of this person's life.
Wow. So, Delane, you have come a long way. I don't know how to, maybe I'll get you to share. Okay, what happened? What went through your mind back then when you were on the edge?
I think there were a few things that happened at the same time. So you watch the video, I was battling with some health issue, go through a surgery. The chances of me surviving the surgery is a 30-70. 30% of the survive, 70% probably I will not be able to survive through the surgery. What happens if I don't do the surgery is I left with probably about 6 months to 8 months because of the speed of my heart rate. In February, when I was asked to do the surgery, on the day before the surgery, my girlfriend broke up with me, and that's where I think it's multiple combos. So I have a health issue, a relationship issue, and a professional issue. The professional issue during that period was I was investigated for corruption. Because somebody wasn't happy that I was being awarded the contract for a particular school. And then I was investigated for 1 year. So that year, I always say that year is called the shit year, the SHIT year. And every one of us here that we confirm guarantee will have this moment called the shit year. But it happened that year itself, there were multiple combos. So what I did was, I was in Raffles Hospital. I decided to walk down all the way to Main Street. And when I climbed up the stairs of the Main Street, actually, as I walk up, I was actually quite determined to end my life. So when we talk about ending my life, means that if I end my life, I got no issue. I don't know anyway my health problem. Life is like a gamble, so I must not decide just end the life and then don't need to go through the pain and the surgery, and I don't need to face whatever investigation that I was going through. So when I climbed up, I was actually ready to take that step to jump until I was technically saved by a WhatsApp message.
WhatsApp.
So somebody texted me and asked me, Delane, are you free for coffee? Just one sentence. Delane, are you free for coffee? And my response was, I'm in pain. I have no mood for coffee. And I was about to jump, but because in WhatsApp, right, there's this thing called typing. So you cannot jump until the person type finish. So I waited for the person to write, and the next reply came in about 3 or 4 minutes. And it says, don't worry, God will not remove the pain. So I was thinking, don't worry, God will not remove the pain. But nothing else. So in my mind, I'm thinking, God will not remove the pain. So now you are confirming to me that God will not remove this pain. Then after that, the thing is still typing. So I cannot die in peace, so I just wait. So I waited for about maybe 7-8 minutes. Then the message came and said that God will not remove the pain, but He will give you enough strength to go through the pain. And that's where I realized that the moment I was there, that was the moment where I realized that I was taking my life. Now before the message, when I was about to jump, that whole piece, when I looked down, that whole ground was very peaceful. And I was really, really enjoying because to me, it was a way to end this crisis and a way of peacefulness when I look at the very peaceful ground. Right? So what happened during that was that whole 12 minutes of waiting has caused my heartbeat to beat slower. When I was on the ledge, so if anyone would ask me what is it like to attempt suicide, let me tell you, whoever they want to attempt suicide, the heartbeat is really fast. It's really pumping 1.5 times faster than usual. And because you are pumping so fast, you have no time to think. And that 12 minutes of waiting on the WhatsApp caused me to slow down and breathe. And when you slow down and breathe, then you begin to think more rationally and begin to think about what if I were to jump, what happened to my parents. A lot of times you always think that ending your life is the way to end your misery. But ending your life is the start of the misery of your loved ones. And that is something that whoever that wants to take their life, they have to really consider the people around them. And I mean, one of the user asked, when was the last time I cried, or when was the last time we all cried, right? I always remember that the last time I cried was on the 31st of August this year, and I don't know whether you have Googled about me. There was a post went viral. Oh. The 7 interview candidates, and when I posted 7 interview candidates 1 hour, the whole thing went viral. And there was split opinion. People started to CSI me, dox me, send me pizza, send me bubble tea to my house because my address and everything was published. And then they went on to fabricate news and information that were not true. So first 2 days, I was very calm. Don't worry, this thing will pass on. On the 31st of August, couldn't take it in because it went on too much, to a point where I have 91 pages of hardware zone dedicated to me. So just imagine every time when you read the hardware zone, everything is about whacking you, and it's about fabricating, and it's about allegation. And so at that point in time, I really go down and cry. But I know breaking down and cry is a way for me to cope first, so that I can just finish the cry, then decide what's next. And of course, I filed a police report, and then I let it be. If I'm so concerned about what is written on the social media, then my esteem is built on there, built on the comments of people. So if I believe that the comments is not building my esteem, then I just check out the whole process, and eventually things will get better. The last few weeks, I went back to hardware zone and read. So I read it like a bedtime story about this, the way they fabricate. So I think it's how we cope with our crisis. The other one to end my life, I don't think so. But I was really sad. I was really disappointed that why would people go to such an extent to cyberbully and dox me? I mean, I'm 35. I feel affected when I'm being cyberbullied, but I'm quite sure that the young people, when they're being cyberbullied, some of them may not have that coping mechanism. They may not have experience to cope with it.
So I would say that time when you were on the edge, you were given that time to slow down.
And this is basically a coping mechanism. So this coping mechanism is called PDCA, Pause, Think, Choose, Act. I mean, in a health promotion portal, it's called COPS. Calm down. You observe your emotion, then you start to think about positive things, what you are good at, what you are grateful for, and then you explore your options. What are your other options? And if all else fails, you seek help. So this is basically one of the mental health coping mechanisms that is being used in schools, and is being used in our training programs.
I'm going to ask also Kenneth the last question we had on Facebook about how would you help your friend who is there on the edge?
Right. So I guess when a person wants to kill himself, he will probably think that there is no more hope, right? In this world. And I guess when you see somebody who is at the age wanting to jump, I guess is to bring him back into that contemplative state, right? To contemplate about whether I should jump or whether I should not jump. Because when a person is really at the window, he is actually quite determined to jump. Or maybe he is still contemplating, right? And you want to increase that contemplation, right? And you and of course that's the theoretical part. You want him to contemplate even more, right? And how do we do that is to really give hope, right? So I guess Delane mentioned about thinking about something positive, right? But over that is when you feel like you want to kill yourself. I think you've got to think about something positive. But when you see somebody at the edge of the window or ledge, right? And I guess the first thing is really to give hope, right? So we have, I guess I've heard of this case where a teenager wanted to jump, right? And then one of the counselors that I know was actually talking to the person, and ultimately she didn't say anything. The first thing that she said was, "Have you taken your breakfast?" And that got him to come back. Wow. Right. So it's to show that you are concerned, genuinely concerned about the person, and to give hope that humanity, there's still hope in humanity, and not everybody are the same. Right. You may have certain experiences from some people, but it doesn't mean that all people are like that. Right. So there are genuine people who would be there to help you, to support you. Right. And of course, if you look at the question again, as a counselor or anyone who actually witnessed somebody who wants to jump, I guess the first thing is if there are actually people around you, if you're not trained, please don't just go and grab the hand, because if you grab the hand, if the person jumps, you go along with it. Right. So I guess it's to stay at a distance, right, and to talk to the person. But if there are other people around you, I guess it's good to start to call crisis teams, as the police and any ambulance, right? But call them, whether or not ultimately he jumps doesn't matter. Or we need to call the crisis team to come immediately while you check with the person. Is to delay the time, continue to give hope while the crisis team comes and set up things for the person. But never try to reach out to the person and get the person to come back. That is very dangerous. Right? Dangerous for him and dangerous for you as well. Because just in case you didn't want to jump and then and then push him down. Right? Or he may just drag you down. Yeah, so never attempt to actually get a person back. Right? So we'll leave that to the police and whatnot. But you, as a person, you can actually give as much unconditional love, right, concern, and to give hope. I think that's very important.
Okay. Yeah. So thanks a lot. We have the question which Delane has answered with. I think it's directed to all of us as well. When was the last time you cried? Was it you or to all?
To all.
So I don't know.
Okay. It was just a week ago, right? So I was doing this guided meditation. So we were doing some visualization, right? So we were being led into a room to explore certain things, right? Yeah. So of course my grandfather popped up in the visualization, and then because I was very, very close to my grandfather, I didn't grow up in it's I would say it's a functional family, but I wouldn't say it's a very good family, because there were many expectations, and it was just a lot of quarrels and whatnot. But my grandfather was really my friend, right? And I could talk to him really very well. And so in that guided meditation, he popped up, and then I was being led into a room again, and then to deal with regression and whatnot. And I saw the child in front of me, and the child is me. So I actually hugged that child who is me, right, and to give the comfort. And that tears.
So it's an emotion.
So it's an emotional connection to your past experiences.
Right.
And what you can actually think about in terms of deeper messages, right? So in that visualization, I comforted that child who grew up in that kind of family, right? And to give comfort and to recognize that the child is a genuine child.
Right. For myself, in March this year, my father passed away. So I think it was a grieving period. And of course, you lose somebody that is important. It's of course you will cry. Okay. So no drama. It's all part and parcel of life. I think we're here to show you that it's okay to cry. We're men,
Yeah.
right? It's okay to cry, right? Okay. So at this point, perhaps we stop and take some questions from Zoom on Zoom. If there is anyone who wants to unmute and just ask a question.
Hi.
Okay.
Yeah. Do I introduce myself?
Gabriel,
We all know.
we see you.
We see you.
All right, I see. Okay, I'm Gabriel
And I
Craig.
know you.
Yeah, I'm actually asking for a close friend of mine. Yeah, so a close friend of mine actually has a very, I would say a bit dysfunctional family. Okay, so he has a very absent father figure. He was always overseas. But recently the father had retired from his job and then he came back to Singapore to stay with the family. And right now I can see that the way the father interacts with the family is a bit I would say aggressive, and it's taking a toll on him, and I can see him getting more and more aggressive in the way he speaks towards his friends and the way he handles life. So I'm just wondering, as a friend, what can I do for him? Do I have to, like, I can't possibly like go up to the father or do anything to like advise the father or anything, because that's out of my boundary already. But what can I do as a friend besides being there for him and talking to him?
So is it that the father is something that is a concern and you have no reach, but you wanted to help him through how or what other ways that you can?
Yeah.
Tricky, eh?
Yeah.
I think what you did was, what you did right now is right. It's really spending time with him and doing regular check-ins with him to make sure that he's okay. The part about whether do you intervene by talking to the father, like what you say, there's certain boundaries that we cannot cross unless first you can let the father know that you are seeing the child regularly for check-ins, but nothing about the situation. Hopefully one day the father may ask you for help, but we always try to make sure that in counselling it's really both parties are willing. If both parties are not willing, it's quite difficult to build that relationship and that counselling session. So I think right now what you need to do is to really continue to do these check-ins with him. But of course, if it comes to a point where during the check-in or as the day progresses, this particular child becomes more and more violent or have negative thoughts of doing something that is negative, then that's where you will have to intervene, and you probably have to refer this to professional help. And sometimes if the violence is a threat to somebody else's life, then the authorities may have to come in. And in this way, we are actually also helping the child.
Yeah. So I guess the first thing is to ascertain if your friend has been hit by his father, whether there's any violence that's taking place at home, any family violence. So if there is, I guess we've got to refer it to the police. But if there isn't, if it's just a father that's very aggressive, but there's no violence at home, that will include verbal violence. Also, if there's a lot of verbal violence, I think we've got to take that into consideration.
Yeah.
Also, that's not a very safe place for your friend to stay in. So I guess if your friend has been very, very affected by his father, but there is no family violence per se, right? Then I guess what you are doing is really good. But at the same time, I guess your friend needs to learn certain coping skill, right, to deal with the situation at home, right? So I guess it's good for him to seek some counseling, some professional help, just to learn some skills on how he can actually cope with the situation at home. Yeah.
And I think also it also really depends on the DNA of the family. Whether is he the only child, is there an older sister or an older brother? and what's the relationship between this child and the mom. So there are a lot of factors before we can determine what's the best help we can offer.
Right. Okay. Gabriel, is that okay?
Yeah,
So
thank you for the answer.
I think continue to engage him, and perhaps you may be able to even find out more what's the underlying issues. It could probably not be just the father itself, right? It could be some other things that lead in. Yeah. So I think this is a very good, Gabriel, you raised a very good question. And I think it is healthy to be in the outdoors. I think that's what this conversation was supposed to be, but we had a whole chunk of information on mental health. Right, so I'm gonna jump into this thing about outdoor activities. Right, so we have seen reports about outdoor activities being helpful, very beneficial, how exercises actually helps in promoting mental wellness. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Agree?
Yep. And it's proven.
And it's proven.
Yes.
Yeah, it's proven for the last, during the circuit breaker period, I think a lot of our kids, even for ourselves, we have this illness, unknown illness called cabin fever, where we are really claustrophobic staying at home. And more and more our kids are not having enough vitamin D's because they are not out in the sun. So outdoor education or outdoor learning or outdoor experience is something that is really important.
Just go out to nature and you feel good.
Nature, I like you mentioned the magic word nature. As compared to the regular exercise or just exercise alone, I think going out to nature, not say I think, I strongly believe that going out or connecting with nature actually helps. So already doing exercise in the outdoors is very helpful. Okay, and being in the outdoors because I'm also a nature therapy, forest therapy guide in training. So we learn about things that the nature actually gives out, right? So not just the exercise alone. We haven't talked about the chemicals that is in the forest that we absorb that enhances our mood.
Something that triggers your five senses. And outdoor is the only free activities in the sense because it is the environment that provides you with the sensory of the five senses.
That's right.
Yeah, so at this point, I wanted to share with the audience this, can we go to the first slide? Okay, actually Gabriel and his team, Matthew and I think the rest, this group, they are actually from Ngee Poly. They were taking part or they were doing their school project and they actually approached us to do something related to nature therapy. So with their very little knowledge and whatever that we can try to feed them with, they came up with this app. It's actually a working app. I'm very impressed. I have it on my phone as well. Okay, so the project is called Rooted Minds and they use this application platform for users like us, okay, to help ourselves to do certain nature therapy practices. Very, very easy, very, very simple one. Okay, so if you are interested, you can actually download from, you can see on the screen for Android user and then for non-Android user. Okay, we're gonna type this out into the chat, the Zoom chat group. Okay. Yeah, so the link is there, so help yourself to that. I just want to give acknowledgement to this group. I have another group of students who we mentored as well. Okay, they came up with another project which is also similar, something similar, but that one is not something that, off our phone we can use. Okay, so well done, Gabriel and your team. Right, okay, so Delane, you are also, we're going to talk about outdoor activities, right? You are also an outdoor educator. You read.
Okay.
Yes, are you not? Okay, so we have been talking about this OE master plan, right? Okay. What do you think this OE master plan is for the future of?
I mean, based on what I know for the OE master plan that was developed about 3 years ago or 3 4
about
years
then,
ago, it's really that every child would have some outdoor experience. I think if you understand about the MOE outdoor framework, the primary 5, the 11 years old will go for their outdoor adventure camp. Then Sec 1 will have their orientation camp, Sec 2 will have their own leadership camp, and then Sec 3 they will go for OBS. All the 15 years old will eventually go for OBS.
Yeah.
So I think the whole idea is really about building not just leadership skills or interpersonal skills. It's also really about helping them to understand about resilience, about mental resilience, and it's only through outdoor experience that we are able to bring about. We are able to allow our kid to be more aware about themselves, more aware about others, and more importantly, how to build a social ecosystem for their own life. So if you look at the current OBS structure, you actually run, as a participant, you actually do the camp with other schools from the different areas.
Yeah.
So this way is also really helping them to build their network and the skills of working with one another. So the definition of outdoor education is very broad. I mean, I'm training in UK in terms of outdoor education. So during my time, I get a chance to stay with the sheep, understand about sheep behavior. I was in Africa to understand about giraffes. So I'm technically a specialist in giraffes, understanding the parts of the giraffe, the behavior of the giraffe. So all this allows me to connect to the nature. Unfortunately in Singapore, because of land and space, we have to create an outdoor experience by going to our various nature walk, and some is man-made walks. We have our outdoor elements, we have our abseiling, our rock walk, our climbing, our kayaking. So all these are the outdoor activities that forces us out in a structured way to be in the sun. And like what I say, when you're in the sun, it is good for the mental health. When you build relationship with people, when things happen, when you have your downtime, you know who you can look for. Because these are the people that went through thick and thin with you in a sense in the outdoor.
The 3 days, 2 nights, 4 days, 4 days, 3 nights.
But of course, I enjoy the 21 nights one, the 21 days one.
Okay, right. So we talked about the sunlight and everything else. I think we have this biophilic connection, I think, with the nature. Will counselling or in your side of the studies, what would you say about this nature and our well-being?
So I guess what Delane said he has already said that it's been well researched that once you go out to nature, you just naturally feel good, right? So I trust that these ancient ancestors, they're the trees, big trees, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So ancient ancestors would know how to heal us in that sense, right? Yeah. So I guess once you go out, you feel relaxed. If you're out in the sun, it produces vitamin D, right? It makes you feel good. Serotonin is produced, dopamine is produced, all the good hormones are produced. Cortisol, these bad hormones are being reduced.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So naturally you feel better in that sense. Yeah. So I think going out to the nature is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, you've got to get out a little bit, bring your insect repellent and whatnot.
And leave no trace.
Leave no trace.
I mean, if you look at our young people today, or in fact all of us today, we spend more than 70% of the time on the screen, whether it's on the TV screen or whether even on our mobile phones. But if you are able to set aside 45 minutes and an hour just to be out in the walks, in the nature, and then to appreciate things, then I think you have a sense of gratefulness. I think when we talk about mental wellness, I think one of the questions that your husband asked was it's about a coping mechanism. How do we? I think one thing that you can do every night is when you go out, when you go back home, you ask yourself what is one thing that you're grateful for. And when you start to count your little things in life, and when you start to count what you have instead of comparing what you don't have, then I think life will be much happier.
Yeah. Actually, to add on, I actually ask my clients to actually have a gratitude bottle, right? So you can just write now on some kind of ribbon, fold it, and then put it in. So you just collect it. So when you feel down one day, just pour it out and have a look. You have actually a lot of gratitude that you can be grateful for.
So in the coping mechanism framework is COP. The P is actually positive.
Yeah,
thoughts.
that's
And
right.
these are your positive thoughts.
Wow, so hear that. I think we can all start keeping our own bottles, right?
Yeah.
Gratitude
Gratitude bottles.
Okay.
Because when we are down, we tend to forget about these gratitude. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So in the interest of time, okay, we're supposed to talk more about the outdoors, but I think we have shared quite a bit of insights on what mental health is about and a lot of useful tips lah. I'm gonna start to wrap up. Okay. And gonna ask you for a good word or good advice. I think you shared a few. Okay, but if there's one thing that we'll say before we say good night, what will you want to say to our audience?
You are never alone. I think the key word is you are never alone. And if you are feeling down, I mean, if you have friends who are feeling down, just let them know that they are never alone. I think one of the participants asked, what if you really have a friend that is on the edge? I think our job is not to really grab and save life. Our job is really prolong the life.
Yeah.
And if you have a friend that is on the edge, have that conversation until the help comes.
Yeah.
And it's important to ask questions. Asking what are your suicide plans, where are you? Because a lot of times we panic. So when we panic, same thing, the coping mechanism is the same. Pause, think, choose. When you panic, your heart beat faster. So you pause so that you have time to think about the question, choose the question, and ask the question. So just remember that you are not walking in this journey alone. And more importantly, don't be a bystander, be an upstander.
Kenneth?
Okay, so I guess we need to have a different relationship to challenges in life. And what I mean by that, if you look at when you are happy, you always welcome happiness, right? You always welcome excitement. When challenges come, you avoid, you sulk, you just have a very negative relationship with challenges, right? But so happiness, excitement, these positive feelings are actually in nature, right? They are natural. Likewise, challenges, they're actually natural as well. They're part of nature, right? So we don't just accept happiness. I think we need to also learn how to accept challenges, because challenges itself has many opportunities for us to learn, right? And that grows us in a sense, right? So I guess ultimately, if we are in challenges, I think learn how to smile even when you're facing a challenge. Just smile, and you understand that when you smile, naturally you will have some dopamine being produced in your mind, and you naturally feel slightly more joyful. And I think that's hope.
Right. Okay. And don't forget, go outdoor.
Yeah, go outdoor.
Just go outdoor. Okay.
So your
Grab a
challenge for the
friend.
next 48 hours, they must be outdoor for at least 2 hours.
I'm not sure about that, but we have something in line up for them. Okay, but before we get to that, I'm just going to share the social media or what am I talking about? I'm going to share the contact of our guest here, the Pomegranate Kenneth. Okay, so the social media, you have Facebook, and they can reach out to you by email. Is this correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
And you have your website as well.
Yes.
Okay, so feel free to connect with Kenneth via this platform. And also we have Delane, Happy Youth under Character and Leadership Academy, right? Right, so Facebook, email, and you have the website. Correct, huh?
Correct.
Okay, take a photo if you need. Right. Okay, then of course we have us. If you are looking for outdoor activities, we have a lot lah. Okay, so all these you take a photo. Alright. If not, then you can always look at our videos again on playback. Right. So we're gonna end off with not say a treat lah. Okay, but we have this initiative which we would like to do for this purpose. We are gonna organize 2 walks. Okay, one at Jurong Lake Gardens and the other one at Persil City Park. Okay, these are charged program, charged nature walks, which we're gonna donate all the profit to the cause under Happy Youth for your program. Okay, but if you feel that these dates I cannot make it, I realize that the dates are wrong. 6th November is actually a Friday. Okay, so if you find that you cannot make it for the walk, don't worry. Okay, buy a ticket. We will bring a youth. I believe you have like many youth that we can engage, right? Okay, we'll bring them out for a walk. All right. And same thing, the money, the profit will go to the program for Happy Youth. Okay. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. But before we say goodnight, we're gonna take a photo, a group photo. If everybody can, if you can turn on your webcam, we're gonna take a very nice group photo. Yeah, I can see. Oh, Michelle, hi. Who?
Hank.
Hank. Hank.
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
Oh.
Are you in Singapore?
Hank is from Malaysia.
Yeah, from Malaysia.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, I saw your numbers is a Malaysian number.
I know him, Dr. Heng, Dr. Yak.
Dr. Yap. Very honored. We hope the session has been helpful, useful. Okay, continue to engage. I think help us reply the comment if they have questions.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Are we ready for the photo? Okay, big smile. Safe distance, huh? Okay. Right. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for attending. Thanks, Kenneth and Delane. Thanks, everyone. Okay, we'll have the conversation continue on our social media, right? And good night, everyone. See you next round.